Okay, this is part 7 of quotes by Arthur Schopenhauer. First, a couple quotes on persuasion. Half an ounce of will is more effective than a hundredweight of insight and intelligence. People only care about the things that affect them personally. Wisdom is knowing when to speak and when not to speak. That's a true statement. Young guys don't shut up. And young guys always think they know a lot, whereas young guys really tend to be rather ignorant because they don't have much life experience. They're high on testosterone but short on life experience, and they don't know how to shut up. It's been my experience dealing with young guys. Okay. Whereas an old guy's smarter. They know that a lot of times the best thing to do is shut up. So what if you're right? If you can't influence the situation, why even say anything? It depends on the situation, but there's a time to speak and a time not to speak, and it takes judgment to know that. One should not reveal all of one's strength at once. Better to appear slightly weaker than at the critical moment to reveal it then and to the surprise of one's opponent. Yeah, that's often happened to me, is like people will not like me for some reason. I won't even know what it is. And they'll automatically assume I'm like an AOA. An AOA is like top 10% of their medical school class. Usually IQ's in the range of about 135 to 150. But I'm way smarter than that. So when somebody does that to me, they find out that they're not dealing with an AOA. They're dealing with something much higher intellectually. It's just a fact. Okay? Because, yeah, some of these guys will pick arguments with me and mock me or tease me. And I'm like, just, chill out, pal. You don't know what you're doing. In an intellectual battle, I'll just kick the shit out of them. Next, Schopenhauer. One should not reveal... Okay, we already did that one. I like the fact Schopenhauer's name has the word hope in it, even though he's totally pessimistic. Okay, Schopenhauer on art and music. How astounding that the change of half a tone, the entrance of a minor third instead of a major, at once inevitably forces upon us an anxious, painful feeling from which again we are just as instantaneously delivered by the major. This deep relation which music has to the true nature of things, which also explains the fact that suitable music played at any scene, action, seems to disclose to us its most secret meaning, and it appears as the most accurate and distinct commentary upon it. Yeah, there's something about those sounds, there's things, sounds are programmed into our brain. It's like immediately when we hear a female voice, we like the sound of a female voice. But it's also true, we automatically assign, in general, more credibility to a male voice than a female voice. We don't do it on purpose. We're just used to men speaking about authority, about this is right, this is wrong. We're used to women talking about personal stuff. It's just a fact of life, okay? Now, of course, there's exceptions to that, Ayn Rand and things like that. But in general, it's like, you hear a bunch of women talking, it sounds like a bunch of birds chattering. It's how a man's mind hears it. A pleasant sound. And we like it. We like it a lot. But there's the difference. There just is. We can't pretend that difference isn't there in our mind. Okay, Schopenhauer on literature and writing. This is really my favorite part of Schopenhauer. This is how I got addicted to Schopenhauer, because I was trying to figure out how to write a bunch of books and make them good. And Schopenhauer is a guy who's really thought about that. He says, a man who does not have enough originality to think out a new title for a book will be much less capable of giving it new contents. Yeah, it's usually a sign of a clever writer that there's something clever and funny about the title, maybe about the chapter titles or something. There's games being played. Like I loved it when I saw the first Monty Python and the Holy Grail movie. And they're making jokes in all the captions. And that reminded me of the Sergio Aragonis making jokes in the margins with the Mad magazine and stuff. And I've seen other writers, they'll make jokes in their comments and their testimonials and stuff. And that got me to start doing that because I just thought it was fun. You got to put something in there. Why not make it fun? And with Amazon, too, that intro to the book is the first thing a person sees. And the only thing most people ever see is that first, 3 to 5 pages of the book. So there should be a lot of fun in there and useful information. I mean, why not? That's all they're going to see. Okay, Schopenhauer continues. An intelligent man quickly becomes bored with too much focus on exterior events and actions. It is interiority that we are fascinated by, interpretations and insights. Quite often in the best novels like Tristram Shandy, almost nothing happens. And that's kind of funny too. And you can look at that with movies. A good movie, you really care about the characters. Like It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed, the family. It's a beautiful movie. Clarence the Angel and everything. Versus these Hollywood action flicks, they're made for retards. Boom, boom, explosion, car chase, all this stuff. It's like you could entertain your dog, let your dog watch that. But there's nothing for a mind to get from that. Okay, and then they have very little vocabulary because half the audience can't even speak English. Okay, those movies are for retards. Okay, true brevity consists in saying only what is worth saying while avoiding all that everyone else can think for themselves. Yep. So that's what I mean. I listen to Schopenhauer and I go, that's how I should write, like Schopenhauer says. To use many words to communicate few thoughts is the unmistakable sign of mediocrity. That's how most people write, because they don't care what they write. They're just in a hurry. It's faster to just do a quick, sloppy job. But what I told myself is I want to get good at writing. So whenever I write, whenever I have to send an email, whenever I have to make a radiology report, I ask myself, is this good? Is this clear? And even though those types of writing aren't the same as writing a book, you just get yourself in the habit of doing things in a good way, and that carries over to other things you do. Like Aristotle had said, excellence isn't something that happens once in a while. It's something that you do all the time. It's a habit. Okay, Schopenhauer continues. To gather much thought into few words stamps the man of genius. The task is to think what nobody yet has thought about that which everybody sees. Only he who writes entirely for the sake of what he has to say writes anything worth writing. Yeah, most books, the writer's like trying to sell you something. Read this intro book and then sign up for my course. And it's like, screw you, asshole. Or they really only have 5 pages of content. So then they BS you for the first 20 pages. Then they give you 1 page of content, BS you another 20 pages. And it's like, they're not worth reading. Okay, so a good writer's got valuable stuff right on the first page or two. The greatest works of the greatest men all belong to a time when they had to write them for nothing or for a very small amount. Yeah, a lot of the best books were written in exile. Boethius, Consolations of Philosophy, when he's imprisoned on his way to be executed, okay? Aristotle's books, most of them destroyed because he was a Macedonian and the Athenians were jealous of him, okay? Chased him out of town after the death of Alexander the Great and destroyed a lot of his work. Okay, so a lot of these guys just, have student note copies of what they did. Lots of books were written in exile. Victor Hugo wrote Les Miserables in exile, okay? John Locke wrote a lot of his political theories and treatises in exile. Voltaire wrote a lot of his work in exile, okay? Like English letters. That's just the way it is. So the best writers are those who have thought before they started writing. They are rare. And like I said earlier, Schopenhauer also pointed out the best books are always written by amateurs. The so-called professionals are always a bunch of phonies just trying to get money or prestige, and they don't really give a rat's tail. He who writes for fools will find a large audience. As the strata of the earth, geographic layers, preserve in succession the living creatures of past epochs, so the shelves of libraries preserve in succession the errors of the past and their expositions, which now stand petrified and stiff in a place where only the literary paleontologist regards them. Yeah, if you want to be a well-educated person, you got to be a little bit of a literary paleontologist. Schopenhauer continues, it only takes a few pages to see the author's skill and intention. If the author does not quickly display some valuable information and only seems to be writing to fill up the page with words, then quickly throw the book into the garbage because time is too valuable to waste. Okay, Schopenhauer continues. A great writer has great metaphors. The first rule for a good style is that the author has something to say. A great writer writes because he has something to say. Yeah, so before I ever write a book, I always ask myself, do I have something really useful to say that I haven't said before, that no one else has said well in a book? He does not write for fame or money because he knows he will not get any. Yeah, I know my books are always going to be shadow banned and ostracized, but I know when I've got something to say, I write a book. He writes for great men and for posterity because too few of his contemporaries will be able to follow his thoughts. He is like a man who knows the correct time, but it is of no use to him because everyone else is using a different clock. He plans his book like an architect plans a building. He has really thought about the topic. He has conversed about the topic. He writes his own thoughts and his own experience. he expresses in a fresh and forcible way. Simplicity has always been held as a mark of truth. It is also a mark of genius. The object of science is to recognize the many in the one, to perceive the rules in any given example, and not to go on counting up facts ad infinitum. Yeah, it's insight's what really matters. Since similes and metaphors are such powerful engines of knowledge, it is a sign of great intelligence in a writer if his similes are unusual and at the same time to the point. A good work is doubly good if it is short. Okay, so that's some Schopenhauer on writing. He's got a lot more on that, on writing. It's great stuff. I hope you found that helpful.